In this video, we will discuss the most common fact-finding techniques used by system developers. Fact-finding interviews. The purpose of analysis activities is to learn and understand at a very detailed level the user's business processes and how the system will support those processes. As shown in this slide, there are various techniques that are available to system developers, and each technique has a strong points and has specific benefits in learning certain aspects of this user's requirements. Number one, using questionnaires. This technique is quick and it's very easy to utilize, and it will give some detailed information about specific options. However, since it does not encourage for probing or additional research, its use is very limited. Number two, review current systems inputs and outputs. This technique will give a good details about how the current system works. This is often a good starting point to understand current processes. However, developers and users should avoid the temptation of to simply duplicate current approaches. After all, the purpose of the new system is to improve the current work procedures and to provide new capabilities. Number three, observing business procedures. In this technique, the developers will actually sit down with the users and watch them work, or possibly even work with them side by side. As with the previous technique, it can provide a good understanding of the current system and business needs. Number four, researching vendor solutions. This is a great technique because it indicates what other companies have done to solve this business requirement. In fact, a good vendor solution may be the best approach to deploy the new system. However, there is also a temptation here. Sometimes users would want to install a vendor solution even if it does not fit a specific requirements of the business need. Next, collecting user comments and suggestions. Perhaps an organization has been collecting suggestions over time. And finally, interviewing users and stakeholders. This is the most widely used technique, and it produces the most in-depth understanding of users' needs. It requires substantial amount of time and efforts, and sometimes it becomes quite expensive to conduct this. System developers who have learned to ask probing questions are able to understand the issues and needs. This slide briefly talks about interviewing users. The process for preparing and conducting interviews follows these 6 steps. Step number 1, set the objectives of the interview. In other words, what to expect to accomplish, and let everybody know. Don't just keep it as a secret. Step number 2, prepare detailed questions, both close-ended questions that only require simple answers like yes or no, and open-ended that elicits additional discussions. But do not limit the discussion to only those type of questions. Number 3, meet with individuals or groups. Number 4, obtain and discuss answers. This should be an interactive give and take session. Don't be afraid to expand your questions. One of the best skills you can learn is to ask probing questions to obtain depth and breadth in your understanding. Step number 5, document the answers. This is done in many ways. One of the most effective way is to build models. However, written documentation is also helpful to remember the details and the decisions that are made. Finally, follow up. Sometimes there are open items that require further research and further meetings. Also, additional questions frequently arise when developers are building models. As you think about the questions that need to be answered during interviews, it's always helpful to think about these three ideas or themes. Theme number one, what are the business processes? Or in other words, ask the user, what do you do in your daily work or in your job? In this question, make sure you are focusing on the right things, business operations or day-to-day business operations. With theme number two, ask the user, what is the best way to perform these processes? What are the steps do you do or you follow to do these tasks? This question ensures that you dig deep into the understanding of the business operation and that you are thinking about the best solution. With theme number three, what information is needed to perform the business processes? What data do you enter and what information is returned? This question ensures that the system will have a comprehensive and complete database for the information system. So how do you prepare for the interview? This figure is a good summary list of all the things you should think about as you prepare, as you conduct and follow up on the user interviews. Before the interview, your primary objective is in preparing for the interview is to set an objective and to determine what you want to accomplish by the end of the interview. You should do your homework before by researching the information that's available for the company. These steps will help you decide who should be involved in the interview and what questions you want to ask. Finally, be sure all participants know the objective, time, and locations of the interview. Conduct the interview. Two big items here. First, be professional. Come on time, dress appropriately, and respect the time of the users. Then, for the interview, ask questions and probe for details. Also, don't forget to probe for error conditions. In other words, what can go wrong? What to do when things go wrong? Again, the best system developers learn how to ask for probing questions to make sure all the details are uncovered. Finally, follow up afterwards. The big task here is to turn the knowledge you gained during the interview into meaningful requirements for the new system. Usually this is done through building models. Also, make sure to follow up on open items, questions that users did not have answers to during the interview. You might also ask additional questions that you forgot to ask during the interview. Also, always make sure a list of all open items so you don't forget to get them answered in a future date. So make a list of all these open items. Here is an example of an open item list. It's an easy way to be sure that questions that need to be answered do not get forgotten. You can simply use a simple Excel spreadsheet to create this list. Now, learning to be a good interviewer is one of the most important skills for systems analysts and developers. Thanks for watching.